Welcome everybody to another video of Get Your Geek On. I know it's been a while, but we're doing a review of the newest MCU movie, Deadpool and the Wolverine.
Deadpool and Wolverine. The third Deadpool movie. We finally have
Finally.
Hugh Jackman in a Deadpool movie. And
Yes.
not only that, but Deadpool and Wolverine now are officially in Marvel Studios. So this is an official MCU production, which the first two Deadpool movies were not, and none of the previous movies with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine were. And yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about it. We saw it. We're going to start with non-spoilers, although it's going to be hard to talk about this
It
movie
is.
without spoilers. But we're going to start there and then get into spoiler territory, and we'll give you plenty of warning on that.
He says that.
So, I mean, I guess just what are your initial thoughts? We saw it last night.
Initially, I loved it. I thought it was a great
Okay.
put together film, just
Yep.
popcorn film kind of thing. Again, those like I could just shut off my brain and watch this. I don't need 3 hours of, oh gosh, we got to save the world, do all this. Nah, it's Deadpool. I kind of know what to expect. And I think even now, just kind of looking back, again, try to keep away from spoilers. Tons of cameos, which made it very fun
Sure.
to watch.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say that other people are saying that I honestly don't give a damn about is that they're mad it's not pushing the MCU forward. But not every movie has to do that.
Yeah. I mean, so I will say that I had a lot of fun with the movie also. I thought it was very entertaining. I
Mm-hmm.
think it probably it slots kind of right up there with the other two Deadpool movies. I think probably the first one I still liked the best, and part of
Yeah.
that was probably just it was so unexpected, and it was all those
Right.
things. I still think that one's probably my favorite, but like this is right up there in quality. It
Mm-hmm.
was super fun. I will say the humor was slightly different. It felt, not that there were none, there were, but it felt less raunchy
Yeah.
and more violent.
Yeah.
I think it was more gory, which I think part of that just comes from the fact that you have now two lead characters that can basically regenerate. So
Yep.
you can stab them and do all kinds of things. Whereas in the first one, obviously, it's just Deadpool.
Yeah.
The first couple is just Deadpool that can do that. Now we have Wolverine who can also, heal himself. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can play with that, and they certainly do. Um, but I think it's right up there in terms of quality of the first two. I had a lot of fun. I agree. It doesn't necessarily push the universe forward, but I don't think it, I don't, I think there's things they can build off in this movie
Mm-hmm.
also. Like, I don't feel like it's just like, oh, there was no story movement. I think that there are some elements to this. And I mean, the TVA's in all of the previews. So
Yep.
I don't think we're going to spoil anything by saying they're involved. And obviously, they're also heavily involved in the Loki series.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that, like some of those elements are going to be playing a role in this multiverse story.
Right.
And so I don't have an issue with the story that this movie was telling. I think that it was unique in a way because in the first two Deadpool movies, they are very small scale, right?
Right.
It's in the first one, it's all about, it's kind of his origin story, and he's really just hunting down this one bad guy and trying to put his life back together, right? So it's very small scale. In the second one, obviously we get a little bit bigger. I mean, we have Cable, we have time travel, but again, it's about like one person who Deadpool is now trying to save. He's trying to save this kid
Mm-hmm.
and prevent him from, going down this life of crime, if you will.
Right.
And this one, it felt like the stakes got a lot bigger, which I wasn't crazy about, but I
Mm-hmm.
thought the way they navigated it and still made it a very personal story, I thought they did a good job kind of threading the needle.
Exactly.
I still would have wanted just a smaller scale story overall, but I liked what they did. As you mentioned, the numerous cameos. Again, this is a Deadpool multiverse story. So not only we're going to have numerous cameos, but we're going to have commentary about most of those cameos.
Yeah.
And I thought ultimately it was done very well. I thought, again, the movie was a lot of fun. There's a lot of tongue in cheek in a completely different way than Endgame. This movie rewards your Marvel knowledge, right? Like Endgame was like, this is for the fans of the MCU, and
Right.
we're gonna revisit all these movies and all these scenarios, and there's gonna be little sprinklings in of characters and scenarios that are just slightly different or whatever. And that was very rewarding. I mean, like the Easter egg of like Morgan Stark wanting a cheeseburger, and that was the first thing Tony Stark wanted in the
Yeah.
very first Iron movie when he got back from captivity. Like those types of Easter eggs that were for that type of fan that was really invested. This movie definitely rewards your overall Marvel knowledge,
Yeah.
and like there were some like even stuff that you know was rumors, or things that never came to be, and there's little hints and nods and things, and so it was just a lot of fun. The performances, Ryan Reynolds, Hugh
Hmm.
Jackman are killing it. It's a movie about the two of them. There's not a whole lot of supporting characters that get decent meat to chew on, if you
Yeah.
will. So it's really about those two, and I think they do a great job. I think I would have liked more with like our core Deadpool characters that we got in the first couple of movies. It really feels like Vanessa has been sidelined majorly in two separate movies.
Hmm.
And that's really bumming me out because
Yep.
I love their dynamic in the first movie. I think that their love story is a great love story, and the fact that again, we kind of have two different movies now, both of these sequels, where we kind of just have her in it for brief moments. I don't know, like that's kind of rubbing
It,
me the wrong way. But overall I had a great time.
yeah, and I kind of agree with you. I don't like that we really just got her info of like what's going on in a 2-minute background scene, maybe, and it's still like it was still very convoluted to me, and I was like, I'm not liking that whole thing.
Yeah, I
Uh
mean, other than kind of a little montagey sequence, there's never a scene in the movie where it's just the two of them, like where it's just Ryan Reynolds and Marina
yeah.
Baccarin, and that was, like to me, like their relationship is so interesting, and most of the shots or most of the scenes that she's in are group scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it just was like, I wanted to dig in more, and we do get like kind of one pivotal scene that's two of them, and obviously I'm not going to
Right.
spoiler it, but I wanted.
No, and I agree. I kind of wanted that too, because again, I wanted to know what happened and what's going on. That the one was, I guess it's like in the second act or so that we got the explanation. I was like, that's not enough for me. I
Yeah,
need more context to this. She
I
already put
agree.
up with it for 2 movies, essentially. Like you're telling me now she's like, nah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I do. The only thing I will say I didn't like too much, again, it was a running gag, I think, is Peter. I didn't know how I felt on that one
How
the whole
dare
time I
you?
watched him. Because I get the joke. I mean, I get the point of it.
Yeah.
Again, we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but I think he had just a little too much in there for me. But again, I was more focused on the cameos on Wolverine and on the dynamic between him and Deadpool.
Yeah, it's not a perfect movie. I mean, it
No.
drags at times. There are
Yes.
there are some periods where it's like, okay, we've beaten this horse. Let's move
Yeah,
on to the next thing. Um, and on top of that, I think that some of the action sequences did feel like they went on a little long for me.
agreed.
And some of the jokes, maybe didn't land as hard as I would have hoped. But I
Right.
mean, those are nitpicks. It's not. It's a very entertaining movie. I think if you like the first two Deadpool movies, you are going to
You'll love
like
it.
this
Yeah.
one. It's very much in the same vein. There are, and we'll get into it in spoiler territories, but there are a couple of sequences that really just I was like over the moon. I was having
Yeah.
so much fun at the moment that they were happening. And there's also like there's just some things that I didn't think they were gonna do that they managed to pull off.
Yeah.
And again, I think that I'm surprised on the one hand, that
Right.
we got this movie from Disney and Marvel Studios. Even
Agreed.
though they've been saying for a while that they were gonna let Deadpool be Deadpool, they were gonna make this movie hard R. I kind of was, taking that with a grain of salt and going like, I'm not sure that I trust that they're really gonna do it. Um,
Right.
they did it. I mean, they made a Deadpool movie. This is on par with the first two. Again, I don't think it's quite as raunchy, maybe, but they still make sexual jokes. There are still several of those in the movie, and ultimately, I mean, again, the violence and gore factor felt like it was up to notch, but still very comedic.
Right.
Fitting into that Deadpool style. I mean, in the second movie, we see Juggernaut rip Deadpool in half, and we see his guts hanging out, and he's,
Right.
I can't feel my legs, and then he out and touches them. Oh, there they are, right?
Yeah.
It's so like that. It's that gory humor, and that's still present in this movie.
Exactly. And I think you're right. I think they just decided to double down on the gore. They just double down on the cursing, the violence, everything else. The raunchiness went away, which I don't mind as much. Again, we got a couple movies of it, so it's a little bit different. And I think I agree with you in the sense of we have multiple characters who have a regeneration factor. Let's just keep stabbing and we can have these guys keep fighting each other throughout the whole movie, and people are going to be happy because they can't die.
Absolutely.
So let's go with the rating though, so that way we can move into the next part. So
Yeah.
what is your rating first?
We usually do this out of 10. I'm gonna throw it up at a 7.5. I had a really,
Okay.
really a lot of fun with this movie. I think it's, among the better movies that Marvel has put out in the last, 5 years or so, ever since
Right.
Endgame. I don't know that it's the best one. I think I would probably still give that to like Spider-Man Far From Home or Shang-Chi. Like, I think those two I still enjoy overall better than this one,
Right.
but it's definitely a hit. It is a Marvel hit. It is a solid movie, and I had a lot of fun with it. What about you?
I was gonna say about a 7. I think
Okay.
that's where I'll go. Again, better than the average films. Honestly, I think it's one of the better ones that's come out in the last couple years. I'm trying to think of what came out last year and this year. See,
Yeah,
I think it's
I mean
the
we've
better one.
we've had the Marvels, and we've had the Doctor Strange
Doctor Strange, that was the other one.
Multiverse of Madness. We've had Thor.
Yeah,
I
I would
mean,
say
like Wakanda Forever. Which I think not all of those are equal in quality.
no, not
But
at all.
but
I
I
would say
think
it's
this one is better than the four I just named, in my opinion.
right, and I think I'll agree with that. I didn't, how much I wanted to see Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. I was excited for it, and then I was so
Yeah.
meh after that one. Same with Marvels. I was so meh after. It's like, oh, cool. I got the one scene at the end that I was like, oh, yay, look, there's Beast, and I think we heard
Yeah.
Charles's voice, and that was it.
This movie plays with the multiverse much more effectively than
Exactly.
Multiverse of Madness did.
It's
Um, it's
it's
not even
definitely,
close.
yeah, it's like I would have rather had this kind of multiverse of madness essentially than what we got in Doctor Strange. So I would say over the last couple years, this is one of the better movies they've had. I think
Yeah,
Wakanda is probably my next one that I like. If they're probably right there next to each other.
yeah,
So I
it's
would
good.
say 7 before that. And the fact is, again, not, these people are all, I know everyone's upset that it's not moving the MCU, I guess, how hard they want to push it, but not every movie has to go leaps and bounds, small
Yeah,
steps, because you gotta tell a story still. We're always telling stories, and we
yeah.
still got tons of movies coming out still.
And you got to get the pieces on the board and the places where you want them. I mean,
Exactly.
I think that this movie does a good job of telling a story of Deadpool and Wolverine and putting them in a position where, when as we continue with future movies, now we can, pluck these guys and continue them. So,
100%. And that's what I agree with. I agree with you 100% on that, because the fact is they're here now. And
yeah.
they, I don't think it's a spoiler, but before we go into it, I think one of the jokes I liked was he kept looking at Wolverine till you're 90. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna do that to Hugh Jackman.
Disney's got him back, and they said you're never going away again.
Exactly. How much money
Um,
do you want? That's what they're gonna keep asking him every time.
and honestly, I mean, I was kind of going to leave that discussion for spoiler territory, and so I would
Okay.
just say we're in
We'll stop.
spoilers
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. At
Like,
this point we are. I'll let you run with this part.
thank you for joining. If you haven't seen the movie yet,
Go see it
now
first.
is your time to stop watching, go watch it, and then come back. But we are
You
talking
love us.
spoilers. Here's the
Go
thing.
for it. Yeah.
I am shocked that we ended this movie with what seems like the promise of more Hugh Jackman Wolverine. I really thought this
100%.
was going to be a one and done. Like Wolverine comes back for this movie, we give him another send off, and then we get a new Wolverine. And they could still do that, but it feels like the way they ended this. This isn't our Wolverine Prime. This
Right.
isn't our Wolverine that we had in the other movies. It's not the Logan. They kind of say without saying that was all the same Wolverine. So the one that we
Right.
saw, all the Fox, that was all the same one. It was all the same universe, even though the timelines are messy and it's all crazy and it's all weird. Don't worry about it. That was all one Wolverine. But
Yeah.
now
Just one guy.
this is a different one from a different universe. And again, where they leave off, it feels like Hugh Jackman's gonna come back for at least a couple of those Avengers movies, like the Secret Wars and stuff, which I'm excited about. I think he's great. But I'm very surprised because I thought that he was coming back and one last ride in the sunset, and that does not appear to be the case.
I really agree with that, especially when we got that scene where he's walking off, and I'm like, okay, cool, like this is it, thanks to you. And then Deadpool's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, like they literally have the scene in the movie where he's like, will I be seeing you? And Logan says, yeah, probably not. And he starts to walk away, and then Deadpool calls him back, and he's then in the next scene.
He's in the very next scene.
He's like, he's there.
Yes. So I agree. I don't need a whole nother movie about Wolverine. I don't need a Logan. I don't need Wolverine. I will be okay if it's just cameos with Hugh Jackman, because I know for him to get that ripped every time, I'm sure it's grueling.
It was, I gotta say, that was a great joke where like he was in the full bodysuit for like most of the movie, and Ryan Reynolds was even like, oh, the divorce was hard on him because Hugh Jackman has gone through an actual real life divorce.
That's right, he did. I forgot about that.
And so that was like, oh, that was funny. But then of course they do take it off eventually, and he's completely like ripped, and of course multiple characters like, oh, look at this guy, And so again, I thought,
and the girl that was with me was very much like, oh, Hugh Jackman. I was like, oh, I was like, I know what she wants now. I looked at her because she was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, he's still freaking ripped. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, he looked great. I kind of capping it off with Wolverine, I do want to talk about one of my favorite sequences in the movie, where I was just over the moon, was the sequence where Deadpool is looking for a Wolverine.
Oh my!
And so
gosh,
we got
the
multiverse montage of just like all the different Wolverines. We get the one where
let's see if you know them all.
Short King Wolverine, where he's comic accurate.
Comic accurate because he's only like 5'3".
Was hilarious.
But he had the hair and everything too for it.
Oh yeah, we saw like 80s version with like massive hair. We saw the X-Men I think Apocalypse one where he's like,
he's missing his hand.
The universe has been destroyed, and he's nailed to the X cross. We saw the one where he's fighting the Hulk.
Oh my god, we got a cameo of the Hulk, even if it's just on the blades. I was so happy to see that.
That was awesome. And then there was one that was not played by Hugh Jackman.
Which Patches, don't forget.
I have mixed feelings on. Yes, and we also saw Patch, which I think he was from the we saw him in the trailers.
Did we see him? I don't remember seeing him in the trailers, but it was just cool to see him.
We saw him from behind in the trailer. We saw
that's right.
The white suit and everything. So yes, we do see Patch.
But okay.
So yeah, I mean, like that sequence was so much fun. Let's save the cameo of who the other actor is just for a minute, and just talk about the Wolverines that are played by Hugh Jackman.
Yes. So I mean, again, we got this. Again, this is what I was hoping from Doctor Strange. I will go back to that and say it again, because this makes sense. We're hopping in the universes. The first one we got was Apocalypse, I believe, which is Apocalypse Wolverine. The next one, the first one was Laura Accurate Wolverine, like you said.
Yeah,
and that was the best joke. I'm sorry, because he's just sitting there
when he hopped off that stool. Oh my god. Oh, it was so glorious.
Apocalypse, Patches. We have the cameo. We had the Wolverine versus Hulk, and we got to see also every single costume that Wolverine's basically had, except the black one from the original X-Men films. We didn't see that one, but we don't need it. We saw it in 3 films.
We saw that one before.
But I like that we saw the brown and yellow, which even he comments, oh, that's a traditional one that after Stan Lee stopped writing. Frank, because when Frank Miller picked up X-Men, that was the costume change.
Mhm.
I love the Apocalypse accuracy because that was very like 80s, 90s look to him, and that's what Apocalypse was. It was made back in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was just such a good cameo for that whole part. I think they did did everything justice, and I think that's what we should have gotten in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I thought it was super fun to go through that sequence of Deadpool and basically just pissing off every one of these Wolverines to the point where they just
they all
they
kept killing
murk
him.
they kill him, they whatever. Like he's just the merc with the mouth is just gonna annoy. Oh, and we even revisited the one that's in X-Men Last Stand.
Did we?
Yeah,
Oh,
we see a brief moment, or not Last Stand. What is it? First, Origins, where
right.
he's
Oh, and we
facing
also
off
forgot
against the other guy.
the one on the cross, the X, the giant X.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
forgot
yeah,
about
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Of over the world of skulls.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know where that one's from, and I can't remember. I wish I was a bigger X-Men fan to be like, oh, that was from blah 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 blah. But
yeah.
I
It's
don't.
some world-ending event where he's the last mutant alive or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah,
but
no,
again,
it was so much fun.
it was. And
Uh,
again, this is what I wanted Multiverse of Madness to be.
yeah,
And I'm going to thank Ryan Reynolds for helping put it together properly in a Deadpool film out of all places. But hey, whatever.
yeah. I mean, it was a lot of fun. So let's now talk about the other actor that we get playing Wolverine, which
Okay,
I will say I love this actor.
one of the best.
I do not want him playing this role moving forward. I
Really,
hope this is just a one-off cameo.
really.
This is not the role I want for him. I want him in the MCU. This is not the role I want
Okay.
him in.
Once we had done talking about it, you
Um,
got to tell me what role you want him in.
well, we've had this conversation before, but it's
That's right.
Henry Cavill,
Have it.
and he looks great. He's in like
Mhm.
again the jeans and the white wife beater shirt,
It's basically
working on a motorcycle.
the Wolverine Origins film outfit with the
Yeah, yeah,
motorcycle.
yeah, yeah. Henry Cavill, he's got the facial hair and everything. I mean, we get the joke about how, we'll treat you better than the other studio treated you,
So
like
wrong.
all that stuff. Again, I love Henry Cavill. I thought it was a great, cameo.
Yeah.
But this is not the role I want him in
Okay.
moving forward. I mean, and that's just me. That's just personally.
I remember you want him for.
I think, yeah. I mean, I want him as Doctor Doom. Like, I think he would be amazing as a Doctor Doom.
Doctor Doom. Or
Um,
Hyperion. I think he could do a Hyperion.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just want
But-
him to not be a Superman character again.
Okay.
So, again,
But I need
love Henry
Deadpool.
Cavill. And I'll take him as Wolverine if that's what we give. I'm not going to complain. I like him. I just, for me, that's not the role I would put him in necessarily.
Right. I get that. And I kind of agree to an extent with that one. I could see him as a Doctor Doom. He has that chiseled chin and everything. He could do Doctor Doom. Hyperion would be the Superman version.
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed seeing it, but I don't know if I don't know how much I agree if I want him as Wolverine or not. I would really want to see more like test footage of him trying to be the gritty, cursing, smoking, drinking guy. And I don't see, even in his other films, I can't see Henry Cavill as that. Cavill, I'm sorry, as that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing for him is that I want him to be able to display his charm.
Exactly.
And that's not Wolverine, right?
100%.
And so, like, with Doctor Doom, you can do that. And there's a menace
Yes.
underneath the charm, which I think is really like that is what I want him to play, right?
Right.
And I think people would probably point to something like The Witcher and say, well, he's just a grumpy, guy, and like he's great in that role. And that's true. Like, I do think that he's great as The Witcher. But I don't know. To me, it's just it's not that I don't think he can do it. I want him to be able to display those other attributes that I know he has. And, Wolverine as a character just doesn't really offer you that opportunity.
No, but him punching Deadpool across the freaking barn was funny as heck.
It was a lot of fun. All right, let's get on
to
let's go to the Void. Because we have so many characters,
so
almost
many.
They're from these dead Fox universes, basically. I mean, we get a bunch of old mutants, so we get like Sabretooth and Toad, and we get
Lady Deathstrike, wasn't it?
Azazel, Lady Deathstrike. A bunch of other ones. We even get a Juggernaut who is not played by Vinnie Jones.
Really? Okay.
Which I did confirm because when I was watching it, I was like, that doesn't look like Vinnie Jones, like exactly. Like it's just slightly off. And then I looked it up and he did not want to come back. I think he found the suit very uncomfortable. So they obviously have recast it, which again, we're in a multiverse. So
Yeah,
you
that's
can have
fine.
a different version of Juggernaut. It's fine.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. But we get Juggernaut. And then, I will say, so there have been rumors about different characters coming back and who would be coming back, and there were a few that I feel like we knew for sure,
Right.
like, and I'll just say one was like Elektra. Like we knew Elektra was coming back.
Yeah.
She's definitely back.
Yeah.
They revealed in the final trailer just like a week ago that Daphne Keene's X-23 Laura from Logan was back.
Not gonna lie, I hated that trailer because of that.
I agree. They should not have revealed it.
And she played very well not talking about it too. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
But yeah, no. So those were a couple that we knew. And then there were a couple other, I would say, rumors that people I think had wanted to see for a long time. And we're hoping to see. And those ones, we did see, which was I'll just say was Channing Tatum as Gambit, which there were a lot of funny jokes to mine there because he never got to play Gambit, even though he wanted to for years, but we did get him in this movie, as well as Chris Evans returning, but not as Captain America, as Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. But the one that I was not expecting
100%, I know
in way, shape, or form, I'm gonna let you say it, but it was the one that this one shocked me. Of all of the things that happened in this movie, this was the one that I had no idea what was coming.
100%, especially after the third film he did, how he hated the director, how much he hated doing that film. But we got Wesley Snipes back as Blade, which threw me off so. Yes.
It was incredible. I mean, it was literally, and again, great jokes to mine, like because Ryan Reynolds was in Blade Trinity, and so they kind of have a little. He was they have a little
whatever.
Back and forth about I don't like you. Like I've never like that kind of thing. And it was like, oh yeah, okay. Like there's plenty that. Even Jennifer Garner, as Elektra. She is what she is. I don't think she necessarily. They talk a lot about having a send off for our characters and an ending for our characters kind of thing. And I mean, she was fine. But the one joke that really made me laugh, and I don't know how, it's one of those movies that's you got to watch it over and over again to catch all the jokes. But there was one where they're mentioning these other characters that died, and Daredevil is one that died, and Deadpool's like, oh, I was hoping he was here, and she kind of responds like, it's fine, which is just a commentary on how Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck are no longer together.
Oh, that's right, I forgot they dated.
And so it's just they were married for years.
Oh, were they married? I don't remember that.
So it's just very funny for her to be like, I don't care. Oh, we didn't bring back Daredevil? Yeah, he sucked anyways.
That's true.
I thought that was very funny, a very funny meta joke, which again is a commentary on the actress and her relationship with Ben Affleck. That one worked for me.
That one's funny. I liked, and again, it didn't really hit because it's technically wrong, but at the end of it, where we're getting the big fight scene and they had the rocket launcher, he's like, oh, where'd you get that? Oh, the Punisher had it. Which one? Because it's been 5 of them. I was like, and I was counting up while I said that joke. I was like, okay, we got Dolph Lundgren, we got Thomas Jane, we got Ray Stevenson, and then we have I can't think of the guy's name right now. It's escaping me. The guy who's from Walking Dead.
Yeah, the man John Bernthal.
Yeah, John Bernthal. There you go. And I was trying to think if there was a fifth one that I missed, but I was like, I don't think I missed one. But then you have Blade, but there's only one Blade. I was like, technically.
Well, and again, yeah, I mean, that was a great joke where he's like, there's only been one Blade, there's only going to be one Blade. Yeah. And then Deadpool does, he's in his mask, but he looks at the camera
yeah, exactly.
And I thought that was funny. I was like,
that joke was
we're going to get another one.
And again, I liked Chris Evans back as the Human Torch.
Yes.
I think that made me really happy to see Johnny Storm essentially now officially an MCU character. And they killed him off though, but I'm like, okay, now we have room.
The way that they brought him in,
was
really fun because leading up to this film, I was like, could we get a Johnny Storm, right? Maybe Chris Evans will return, but not he's not gonna be Cap, he's gonna be Johnny Storm. But the way they showed it, before they do the reveal of who he is, you really think this is a version of Steve Rogers. The way he's talking about like we got to stand up and we got, like it's
Yeah.
very Captain America coded.
Oh yeah.
Like as he's gonna do this big heroic thing, and you have the build up from Deadpool, like he's gonna say it, he's gonna say it, he's gonna say Avengers Assemble, and then he goes flame on.
And it's like, what? And it's
And
like,
it
oh
was like,
yeah.
oh, that was a lot of fun. And Pyro basically just
Power to shut him down.
sapping him of his power was very funny. The post-credit scene revealing that he had said all of these horrible things that Deadpool then said, which got him killed. Again, funny. I thought it was a very well played joke. It was a very
it was
ultimately Chris Evans returning. In this role, I think he got to do something he's never gotten to do in the MCU. Right. And he seemed like he was just having a ton of fun, and I had a ton of fun. I thought it was a great cameo, and yeah, I loved having him back as Johnny Storm. It was so much fun.
Agree. I think my one cameo that I wish would have lasted longer, but I do love him that he's in it, was Sabretooth. But I get why we killed him so quickly. I get the whole thing.
Yeah, it was definitely a joke of like, here's this big epic fight, and then Wolverine just decapitates him immediately.
Exactly. Like in 2 seconds, he's already dead. And I'm like, but Sabretooth can heal too. But okay, whatever.
The thing was that if we were going to get a Sabretooth that stuck around, I would have wanted Liev Schreiber. Because the guy that, gets his beheaded, Tyler Mane from the very first movie, not a very great actor.
No,
he's fine. He's good for this role. Like, I don't have any problem with him. But if we were going to have more, I definitely would have wanted Liev Schreiber.
Oh, I agree with that. But I hope they make him look more lore accurate. Like that, the original Sabretooth looks a lot more lore accurate than he did. So I did like that we saw him. But again, I get why they killed him. Because like you said, it was the joke. Look, he's already dead. All right, cool. Moving on. I did like Cassandra Nova, Xavier, essentially, sister. Yeah. I loved how they played with her and letting her be a true, just straight up villain.
Yeah.
And I liked that because, again, we don't really get a villain just to be a villain. Like, she was just happy to be there and rule over the void until they messed with her. Then it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to come screw you over too.
Yeah.
But I did like the mind screws, essentially. I get everybody's head, messing with everybody. Again, stuff that I feel we should have gotten better in, like stuff with like Xavier when he came out in his little cameo, or even Wanda, because Wanda has her magic and her abilities. She could do something similar. I did like that we got to play with this villain, and will say the effects of her fingers going through their heads was so cool looking. I loved that part. Yeah. We also did get to see a statue essentially of Wanda in like a 2-second scene. So Wanda officially still has her statue somewhere. I get there was a lot of little cameos. I feel like I missed certain little things here and there.
So many Easter eggs in this movie. I will say, when you're doing a multiverse story and you're hitting on these other characters, and whether they're legacy characters or they're new characters, the thing that this movie did better, as we've compared it to Multiverse of Madness on multiple occasions, this movie did better is that, these weren't just glorified cameos. Like, no, Elektra and Gambit and Blade and X-23 show up, and then they're in the next 20 minutes of the movie. Like, they are characters. They team up with Deadpool and Wolverine. We get a big fight scene. They all get to show off what they do. I mean, we get, a really cool sequence with Gambit doing, his stuff with his cards, and that's a lot of fun. Of course, Blade, like the moment where he gets shot and then whips out his gun and shoots the guy back, like that was a great moment.
That was a great moment. It so reminded me of I think it was Blade 2, where the guy's like trying to taunt him, he's pointing the gun at him, but he actually pulled the trigger. But it kind of had that same look to it, even that same little stats, that same he knows he's a badass.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, they gave them their moments to shine, which, if you think, again, back to like Multiverse of Madness, like, what did John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic do? Like, he didn't do anything, and so it was just really like, that was a really disappointing cameo. Whereas with this one, it's like, yeah, we've got Blade and he's in the movie for 20 minutes, and, they keep talking about like, we're going to get a send off and this is our legacy and all that stuff. And then it pretty much
Paid
was
off,
like
yeah.
we get one last ride with these characters, or one first and only ride with
Not
Gambit.
wrong.
Which again, like they made that joke several times about like, like, oh, I think I was born in the void, like all this,
Yeah.
like again, just funny stuff.
Just
um
I love how
and I
nobody
thought it
like
worked.
Deadpool could understand him. He was just making fun of his accent the whole
Well,
time.
I couldn't understand half of what he was saying. I was like, I'm picking up about half of what you got,
So
Gambit,
you
with
would have
your
been
Cajun
Deadpool in that too,
accent.
be like, I have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't think it's an accident that one of the most lewd sequences in the movie in terms of the joke went to Gambit, and you could
Mhm.
barely understand what he was saying.
Yeah, not
So
wrong.
it was like, okay, like we're gonna make this really, really, lewd joke, but we're gonna have him say it where you can't really understand it.
Right, the French
Uh,
accent that you'll never understand it.
yeah.
It was
But yeah,
good.
I mean, I think that that was a really fun sequence, with that grouping. I loved, Daphne Keene back as X-23 was
Yes, I
great.
was so happy to see her.
We have to talk before we finish. We have to
Yeah.
talk about how they treated the legacy of Logan,
Hmm.
which was Deadpool saying, "Oh, you're telling me I have to be respectful?
Yeah.
No."
No,
Like,
we're done with that.
he just said, "Nope, I'm just gonna do my Deadpool thing." And yeah, the fact that he digs up the bones, the adamantium bones of Logan, who definitely died, and then just kills a bunch of TVA agents with those bones. Like again, I thought it was perfect for Deadpool. It's one of those things where it's like, if you think there's a line he won't cross,
Oh, he's gonna cross it.
he's gonna cross it even harder.
Yeah.
Like you can't stop him.
No.
And I thought that
It,
worked really well.
I really think at the end of the day, this was an amazing movie for Wolverine, an amazing movie for Deadpool. If we didn't get any more of Wolverine, I'd be okay with that. This was a
Yeah.
nice little ride for him. The Deadpool core, though, we didn't touch on that. Just real quick, don't want to see them anymore. That was good. Don't ever show them again, please. I'm done with that.
Yeah, that was one of those sequences that dragged for me. I
Same.
was like, I don't need all of this. I didn't need to see, the nice pool,
Yeah, that was all
keep showing
dumb.
up. It was like, okay, like I
Those are
get
those,
it, and it's funny, like the way that, like he doesn't regenerate and so dies. Again, funny, but I don't need to
but I
keep
don't need
seeing
it. Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So don't bring them back. But I hope Hugh Jackman comes back. I hope Ryan Reynolds comes back, and I would love to see more with all of our characters who did die in the void. It'd be cool to see them come back and reprise their roles in some way. It would be nice to see another
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes movie, maybe.
I mean, that's the thing, is like we could get more of those characters, and
Yep.
they didn't limit it to just those ones. I mean, there could
Nope.
be on the other side of the void. There's other ones that
Yep.
like could show up. So yeah, I agree. I missed Domino and Cable.
Yeah. Same. I was
I would
hoping
have
to
liked
see
to have
them.
them back, but ultimately it was a lot of fun.
It was, but definitely, hopefully we'll start doing more videos, guys. Stay tuned to Get Your Geek On here on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm Aaron, and that's Robert. Stay geeky and get your geek on, guys.
Bye.